Hello, everyone. I'm going to start the meeting. Okay. That should work now. We're going to start the meeting now. All right. So welcome to the club. Working. Okay. So this is just kind of a recap as to what all of our meetings are about. So we have guest speakers. Today we're hearing from Wingate University, which is very exciting. And at the end, we have like a Q&A session. We can also have like PAs and NPs and stuff come and meet. But that's the gist of how our meetings are run. So we meet on the first Tuesday of every month typically, and our meetings last about an hour from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we meet in this room in Cox 206. I know it's different from last semester, so I hope it wasn't too hard to find. I thought it was a little weird. But we also have our meetings on Zoom. So if you can't attend, feel free to watch the version on Zoom. I'm also going to try to upload these meetings to YouTube afterwards. Hopefully everything goes as planned and they record properly and I can upload them. All right, so here are the list of the upcoming meetings for this semester. So today we have Wingate. Then our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks from now, it will be our nursing meeting. Then we'll have Campbell come. And then March 25th, we're actually going to take a trip. If you want to, we'll send out more information about this later. But we're going to go visit High Point and they're going to give us a tour and going to tell us all about the program. I am probably going to send out an interest form about that just to make sure that that's a good date for people and that people are actually interested in going. And then our final meeting will be April 5th. And we're going to do an EKG/suture workshop. So we're going to have to also do a poll as to how many people are coming for that because we'll need certain materials for everything. All right. So a lot of people have been asking me how to join the club. I'm assuming most of you have done it already, but just a quick little overview. So if you go into our Get Involved page and just search for our club name, then press join, it should come up and that will get you automatically enrolled in our emails that I send out. And then so if you do that, plus pay the $15 and due to Caroline, then you should be all set. And if you want to know about upcoming meetings or presentations or shadowing opportunities, try to follow our Instagram page and you should be up to date on everything like that. Also, I think there's a question here. What to do is covered. So you pay $15 to us. Half of it just goes to the big umbrella, which is the pre-health club. And then the other half we're going to use, we would normally use it for snacks and stuff. But we're going to use it to fund the suture workshop and the EKG workshop. We also do giveaways. Yeah, we do giveaways with any extra money. We got club pins up here at the front that you can pick up. We purchased with dues, but if you follow our Instagram, we'll be doing giveaways again this year. Last year, we gave away a FIGS gift card and a Littman stethoscope. So that's all that we have for you. And there's not a link for attendance. That's all that we have for you. And now we're going to hear from Wingate. Joanne, you can go ahead and take over.
All righty. I'm going to try and share my screen here. Well, before I do that, though, I guess I would love to just introduce myself. My name is Joanne Smith. I am the Director of Admissions here at Wingate University PA program, and I am so thrilled to be invited to speak here to you guys and let you know a little bit about our program. And I'm thrilled that you all came. So welcome. And I'd like to also introduce my colleague. Her name is Susan Lance, and she is also an admissions coordinator here at Wingate University. And she helps to admit students on our Hendersonville campus. We have 2 campuses for our program, which we'll talk about. And so I work on our main campus, our Wingate campus, and Susan works on our Hendersonville campus. Susan is coming to you from her house as she's under about what, a foot of snow now?
Yes, unfortunately.
Have you recovered yet?
No, not until it's all gone.
Okay. You found your car though?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so we'll get started. If all goes well, by sharing our screen here and putting that into slideshow. Is that working? Awesome. Okay, fantastic. So again, welcome. And I am thrilled again to be speaking with you about the program here at Wingate University. So I already introduced my colleague, Susan Lance. She's in Hendersonville. I'm here in Wingate, and just briefly, we'll go over a program overview, how our admissions process works, and then we'll have an initial Q&A session where Susan and I will both love to answer your questions about admissions process. And then Susan will take over. She'll go into our program itself, go over briefly the didactic year, the clinical years, and then we'll wrap it up with a final Q&A session. And there, unless Caitlin would prefer us to wait until after more business is discussed, but we'll get to that when we get there. So starting off pretty much with the vision of our program, when a person who's, you don't have to be a student or any particular, have a degree or anything, but as a regular person, you want to visit your medical provider. I think the two main things you're looking for from that person is that they are skilled and that they are compassionate, interested in what's going on with you and why you're feeling the way you do. So that's pretty much where our vision comes in here at Wingate on our PA program. We strive to prepare compassionate, skilled physician assistants who excel in the profession. And in order to accomplish that, we have our mission, which is to develop the skilled portion is the well-educated and productive physician assistants. And that we get through our curriculum, which we feel is really top-notch, and our professors who really care about you, and our clinical sessions where we have connections with hospitals and offices and other clinical rotations throughout the state. And Susan will discuss that with you a little bit later. So we're excited to develop well-educated, productive, and ethical physician assistants to serve the healthcare needs of the communities in which you practice. And so the ethical would be connected to the compassionate in the sense that we would, we're interested in having those who treat you well. So it's kind of corny, but I thought that was cute. So how do you make it happen? Well, as a student at NC State, you already are working on our first bullet point here. So because our program is a master's program, we require that you have a bachelor's degree or higher education, and then here in the United States. So you're on your way to completing that first bullet point. We'll require completion of 9 prerequisite courses, 6 science classes, and 3 non-science classes. We require that you take the graduate record examination, the GRE, which if you're not sure what that is, it's sort of like the SAT. And it has 3 sections. It has a quantitative section, which is sort of math and scientific reasoning, a verbal section, and a written section where you have to write an essay. We require 2, at minimum, letters of recommendation, and one of those is from a medical provider, an MD, NP, a nurse practitioner, a PA, or a DO. And we require completion of a minimum of 500 hours of clinical experience. A lot of our candidates or applicants will contact us to question whether what they're involved in is considered clinical experience or not. In a nutshell, if you're dealing directly with patients, you're working in healthcare directly with patients, then 99.9% of the time that will count. But we are always here and to answer questions, and we're happy to do so. Shadowing and volunteer community service hours are not required. However, they are beneficial to you. We love to see students shadowing a PA or an MD or other service provider, medical service provider, because then you get to know exactly what the day in the life is like, and that you'll be able to see firsthand what you'll be doing as a PA. A lot of similar things that you'll be doing as a PA if you're not shadowing a PA. And community service is also great to see in your application, because it shows us also that you have a heart for your community in any particular thing. It can be healthcare, or it can be working with the homeless or animal shelters, or some volunteering with your religious organization, where just an opportunity for us to see you helping other people in a variety of ways is great. All candidates interested in our program have to apply through CASPA, which is the Centralized Application Service for Physician Assistants. And it's centralized, so you'll be able to get through that on the internet. And then if you have an application that is competitive, then we'll contact you for a personal interview. And you'll meet with our professors, and you'll sit in on a portion of one of our classes so that you can see how our curriculum works and how our school with the professor and classroom, etc. Here's some basic minimal admissions criteria. So the only minimum GPA that we're looking at is the GPA in those 6 science courses that I mentioned earlier. And we'll go into detail as to what they are in the next slide or so. But that is, the minimum for that is a 3.2 in those 6 science courses. We do have a 9 prerequisite total, so sometimes people get confused about that. It's the 6 sciences and then 3 non-science. And all courses must be completed within 7 years of your anticipated matriculation, and we will not accept any grade lower than a C in those prerequisites. When we're looking at your application, amongst everything else, we consider your overall GPA, overall science GPA, and the last 40 hours of coursework. So CASPA, if you're not familiar with it, will calculate your GPAs every which way but Sunday. they have lots of them for your science freshman year, sophomore year, all throughout, post-bac, GPAs, everything. So these are a couple of the ones that we look at to try and gauge how well you've done and how well we think that you'll be able to handle the rigors of PA school, because it's definitely a step up, if not 2 or 3, from what you're used to in the university at NC State and other undergrad. It's tougher. You're getting a master's degree, and so we've heard it described by our students as drinking from a fire hose. So you're getting a lot of information in a short amount of time, and it's a lot to process. And so it's something for you to consider if you're ready, when you're ready to take on that kind of a curriculum. So the GRE I mentioned before, we've those 3 sections, they're scored separately on the GRE. They give you a total, and then we're looking at scores in the 50th percentile or above in each of those sections. So it's not easy to do. A lot of students or several applicants have told us that they didn't take it seriously at first. And so I just want to take this opportunity to let you guys know that it is important to study for the GRE, and unless you're really comfortable with a lot of those skills on math and verbal and things, but it's always a good idea to study for it because it's an expensive test. And if we feel that your application is super competitive and then you come in with some lower GRE scores, we'll probably ask you if you want to consider taking it again, just to boost up your the competitive nature of your application. As you are probably aware, and if you're not, you will soon be aware, that it's very competitive to get into PA school. And unless you're in one of the top, let's say top 10% of the students, and hooray, if that's the case, you have your choice. But a lot of students have to apply to several schools in order to be accepted into one or two. And it's tough because you have, say, even for our program, we have over 600 applicants for 60 seats. So if you're looking at a 10% acceptance rate, it's you can have a fantastic application, but you have to be in that 60. So you look at various ways to make yourself stand out and to be competitive with other students who are applying for the same seat. So here are the science courses and the non-science. These are the prereqs that we require. So let me back up a sense, because I wanted to mention we do not require any particular major. So if you're earlier on in your educational career there at NC State, we're not looking for you necessarily to have to major in biology or chemistry. The one reason we do recommend it, if you're interested in majoring in a science major, is because you will get a lot of these courses in your major already without having to add them into your electives or whatever. So it's a good idea, if you're open to a science major, to think about biology or chemistry, where you can get these courses in your major and not have to worry about them later, or as to fit them in your schedule with your other major. But we do not require any particular major. So the science courses here are 8 credit hours of human physiology and human anatomy and physiology. Some students get confused because some schools offer human A and P 1 and 2. That would be 2 semesters long for 8 credit hours. Other schools offer a human anatomy course with lab and a human physiology course with lab separate. And those, of course, are 1 semester each as well for 4 credits or sometimes 5. Either way you take those 2 courses is acceptable, A&P 1 and 2, or anatomy and separate physiology. They both have to have a lab, which most schools offer. Biochemistry is a course of genetics. Both of those classes are 3 credit hours minimum. Microbiology with lab and organic chemistry with lab, 4 credit hours minimum. Students need to know what your school requires in order for you to take these. Organic chemistry usually requires either 1 or sometimes 2 2 semesters of chemistry. So you have to make sure that you check with your school, NC State, to see what they require for you to take that course. Non-science courses, general psychology, which is usually a part of almost every undergrad program. Statistics, and a medical terminology class. As I mentioned before, sometimes students question about what can be considered clinical experience. If you're new to the healthcare, then these are some really basic examples here that a lot of students will do. They'll take EMT or paramedic classes, CNA, which is certified nursing assistant, which enables you to work in, of course, in nursing in hospitals and sometimes as home health aides. A lot of them are CNAs. Athletic trainer, you're working directly with your patients. In that case would be the athletes. A medical scribe, although you're not necessarily working physically on a patient, you're working directly with the doctor as he or she, or PA, et cetera, as he or she speaks with the patient, diagnoses, and goes through it. So you're taking the notes. And so we feel that you're getting really good at clinical experience that way as a medical scribe. Medical assistants are in every medical provider's office, and they are fantastic. You get great experience there. PT, OT assistant, there's so many, we can't even put them on the whole amount of slides that I have today, but phlebotomist or behavioral tech, psychiatry, orthopedics, dermatology, lots and lots out there. Whatever your interest is in, in healthcare, you can probably get a position that will give you good experience. So as I mentioned, when I introduced Susan, we do have the 2 campuses that you can apply to. Actually, let me take that back. You can only apply to 1, but we do have the 2 available for you to research and look into. As you guys are the wolf pack there at NC State, we are the bulldogs here at Wingate. And so one of our sayings is, many places, but we are all one dog. And so that is something I want to get across to you guys too. As far as you're looking at 2 campuses, it does not mean that we have 2 programs. 1 program, simultaneous distance learning. So you're sitting in the classroom both at the same time on each campus, listening to the professor. Some professors are on campus in Hendersonville, and they'll be lecturing through our Polycom system to the folks there, of course, in the classroom, and then the folks here in our classroom here on Wingate campus, and vice versa. And so questions are taken in real time, and you're learning the same things in the same time. So it is 1 program, but the difference really is where you want to be. And the locations, of course, are different. Wingate is close to Monroe, close to Charlotte. Hendersonville is close to Asheville, and so and the mountains. And so each offer a variety of different experiences that you have as a outside of your learning environment. So those are the different, that's how students look at the different choices of which campus to think about applying to. As I mentioned before, CASPA is how you apply to PA school, and that you'll find out with most every school that you look into. I'm sure, if not 100%, at least 99.9% schools will apply, have you apply through CASPA. Some schools will have a supplemental application. Wingate does not. So make sure you look into each school that you look at to determine whether you have to complete an additional application. Each year, the CASPA application opens and is coming up at the end of April. So last year was April 29th. I'm not sure if they set a date yet for this year, but it is typically the very end of April.
It's April 29th this year.
It is, okay, so same day. And that I would suggest, and we both, Susan and I both suggest that you allow yourself plenty of time, take a look at that application. It's got pretty much sort of 4 sections that you're going to go through and fill out. You're going to be sending in your transcripts, GRE scores, those letters of recommendation. Most schools require some. Personal statement is what we call an essay. It's not really your 3-point or 5-point essay where you have those paragraphs. It's pretty much just 1 paragraph, but you're answering the question, why do you want to be a PA? And we're looking for you to draw on your experience and what has cemented in your heart the reason for being interested in a PA career. And so most students will, many applicants will take from some of their personal history. Many have cared for a grandparent, a parent, a brother, a sister, sibling, a husband or wife. And that's the reason that brought them into healthcare and the knowledge of it and the desire that they want to do it. Other students have other reasons for choosing the career. But we ask that you let us know what that is in a nice, concise paragraph so that we can get to know you a little bit better and also understand, also glean from you that you know what the PA profession is, and you're not just sort of picking it off a list, because it is a big commitment, time and money. And if you're not sure, then it could be a mistake for you. But if you are completely sure, and just explain to us how you are sure. And so interviews here, once we review your application, can find you competitive and we think that you could handle PA school, we'll invite you for an interview. They take place at our school throughout the fall and into this very beginning of the spring semester. So we're wrapping up interviews. We'll be doing that next month. We are close to having a full class for the class of 2024. And of course, the application cycle goes through almost a whole year. So you're applying in this April then for a seat in the following August, so August of 2023, for example. So you'll start now for the following August. And as I mentioned down here, we have rolling admissions, which means that as we review applications and we find people that we are interested in attending our school, we will ask them for interviews and interview you throughout, and then accept students along the way. So we do suggest that if you are interested in Wingate, that you would consider applying earlier on in the cycle, between May, June, July, and August, and over those couple of months, so that you have a much better chance of getting an interview date than if you apply by our deadline, which is January 15th of the following year. So students have applied that as late as that. It has to be verified by our deadline, but the chances for them to get interviews are a lot less, because by this time, like I mentioned, we almost have a full class. So we do recommend that you do apply as early as you can. Having said that, you can apply with some requirements pending, but depending on what they are and how many, we can see your application and put you in a pending status until you finish them, or if it's just one or two, there are often times that we can continue and make a decision earlier on without you having actually completed those, as long as they will be completed by our deadline, which, like I mentioned before, is the following January. So for this cycle, it opens April 2022, and then you'll have to have everything done by January 15th of 2023. Some facts about applying. We're a private university, so unlike, I think, NC State probably has an in-state and out-of-state tuition, we do not. We have no preference to in-state students. So if you're attending NC State, but you live somewhere else, another state, we welcome your application as equally as somebody who lives in the town over. So we're excited to review applications from all students across the country who are interested in our school. And the tuition is the same. That's just how it works for a private university. If those of you who are attending the meeting tonight, if you've been in school since 2020, it seems like forever ago at this point, with all the tragedy that has happened since that COVID has come out. But we do allow for some pass grades in prerequisites earned in the spring of 2020. Fortunately, that's getting further and further in the past, so that we have, that's getting to be behind us. However, we do need information from you that pass is C or higher. Of course, at any time, given an opportunity to choose, we suggest highly that you choose a letter grade, much more preferred, because we're going to have to ask you for a letter from your professor for what the grade is so that we can calculate your eligibility in a prerequisite course. Courses outside of that, if you choose to take pass fail, or if that's all that's offered, say in a lab or so, then of course that's fine. And as I mentioned before, you can apply with prerequisites pending. Oops, sorry about that. We post some scholarships online. We suggest that students apply through FAFSA if you're looking for assistance in financial assistance. And another suggestion too is to look at becoming an independent if you're young enough to still be under your parents, and so that you'll have a much better option, a much better chance of getting the financial aid from the government that you need to attend PA school or graduate school in general. Since you all are most likely still at NC State and you're still taking courses, the best advice we can give you then is to try and fit those prereqs in during your 4-year career at NC State. Not always possible, depending on your major, depending on when you decide that you are interested in the PA career. In that case, you can take courses over the summer, or you can take post-SPOC courses. So after you graduate, you can still take those prerequisites, like I mentioned, and have those pending. Not too many, but you can have 1 or 2. Summer is a great time to earn clinical experience. Some students are able to do that throughout the year. It's tough because it's a tough schedule, and you're also taking lots of difficult classes in undergrad. So it's, if not throughout the year, then try to use your summers earliest on as you can to get those clinical experience in. If you find that you made a C or a lower in one of our required courses, it's also a good time to retake it. That will help show our professors how serious you are. If you are interested, because you're interested in becoming competitive, so that you're going to retake a course. So that's always advisable. Remember while you're in school to have a relationship with a college professor or your academic advisor, so that you will feel comfortable in asking for a reference or 2. Other references besides those 2 that we require, CASPA allows you to bring up to 5. So if you're into sports, we love letters of recommendation from your coach. If you're volunteering at any kind of an institute, anything where there's a supervisor there who knows you and knows what kind of work you're doing, we love those letters of recommendation as well. So you can feel free to submit up to 5. Applying, sometimes students ask, when is the best time to apply? That is based on, of course, your plan and also the ability to get those courses in, prereqs, and your other requirements in. So some students apply in their junior year. Then you have really some planning to do, because you have to get those courses in before your spring semester of your senior year in order to be considered. Other students will apply in their senior year, which means that you most likely that you would be taking a gap year, and that's a good time to take additional courses or beef up the clinical experience, get some volunteering time in there as well. So there's no right way of doing it. It's what's best for you and how you plan out your classes with your university. Here are some tips then to apply, to present a strong application with us. Our minimum, as I mentioned before, for science prereq is 3.2 to be eligible. But again, lots of students are applying with higher GPAs than 3.2. So to be in the competitive mix, try to do well in those classes so that you can present a higher GPA. Again, retake any courses that you may have gotten a C in to show our professors that you're interested in presenting your best foot forward. If your undergrad GPAs are not where you'd like them, so yes, you are human, we know that. And sometimes life happens to you when you're in your undergrad. And if that's the case, accept it, embrace it, and move on, and try to show us that you're overcome that situation. So some students find their freshman year really tough. They skated through high school and then they got to college and they're like, oh my gosh, I actually have to pick up a book. So if that was you and you didn't do well in your freshman year, use your sophomore through senior year to get serious and learn how to study and learn how to transfer the knowledge that you got in high school easily into working on it in college, and so that you can continue to do well. So learning from those mistakes, or if it's been a situation, a family situation, students have done poorly sometimes in a semester where some kind of family situation occurred, then again, pick it up and start again once that situation is over. You can explain that to us in the essay. Let us know. I mean, don't have to get into super personal details, but you can let us know that, you know, a situation occurred there that prevented you from doing the best you can. And as we can see then, after that occurred, your grades went back up and you became, you know, focused, etc. You overcame the obstacles. Grit, that kind of thing is very important for us to see if for some reason, you know, your classes didn't come easily, or something happened to prevent you from doing the best you can. And so we look at that. As I mentioned earlier, I believe shadowing a PA or other medical provider is really good experience for you. We do not require it, but it's something you'll want to take advantage of as you can. Now with COVID, we know it's really tough. Some of those facilities, hospitals, etc., are using only personnel who are required to be there. So it's not as easy as it once was to get those kinds of positions, but keep trying, and you may find yourself successful down the road doing that. Get in with that community service, volunteer work. Working with those less fortunate is always a good eye-opener if you're not familiar with that economic or folks who aren't as well off. And then we could get a heart for serving folks who really need help, or other kinds of groups that you're not familiar, you know, that's not part of your everyday. And those, to get out there and get some variety is always very good. I mentioned before that we do sometimes ask students to retake the GRE if they would consider doing that if they did not do well the first time. That's always an option for you to do. We will look at that. We will take the higher scores into, you know, we will look at the higher scores when we present your application to our faculty. So it does help to take it more than once. Again, it's an expensive exam, so you may want to take that into consideration when you actually sit down for it, register for it, and sit down for it. So I've just thrown a whole ton of stuff at you, but I'd love to start hearing from you if you have any questions. Susan and I can answer those questions about our admissions process. We will be discussing, Susan will go into more detail about our program, the curriculum, etc. Our students a little bit in the second half. So you can hold off on those questions, but anything that you don't feel I covered or you're still confused about, I'd love to be able to answer some questions.
I don't know if you saw in the chat, somebody asked how many hours of shadowing would be competitive.
Sure. So, oh, wow. I mean, we have some that come in with just a handful. That's not very competitive, but it's given that person some experience. What would you say, Susan? I mean, anywhere as 50 to 100 to over that are some of the hours that we see that we know that students are actually getting some good experience.
Well, of course, the more hours you have shadowing providers, it's more beneficial to you, and the diversity of those hours too. Don't try to look for shadowing under just a family provider. Try to get shadowing hours from a surgeon, from somebody in orthopedics, dermatology, pediatrics, OBGYN. So a diversity of shadowing hours is important. And also just to make sure everyone understands, your shadowing hours cannot count for your clinical experience.
Good point. Thank you for saying that. Yes, absolutely. We have, doesn't matter which orgo you take. So we do accept introductory classes, and we also accept Orgo 1. So either one, they do have to have a lab. So make sure that the class does have a lab. And I guess if one fits into your schedule better than the other, then, you know, choose that one.
Yeah.
So you said that the application process takes like a year. So if you were to like retake the test or anything like in between that, would you be able to like update it like, during that time period?
Did you hear her?
We didn't. Caitlin, would you be able to repeat that?
She said you apply a year and a half before you start. If you were to retake a class or a test, could you update your application?
Absolutely.
And how do you do that?
That you go through CASPA. They'll let you update your application. They don't always, they will not recalculate your GPAs. So if you do take another course, you'll want to make sure that we know about it so that we can take a look at it and then recalculate your GPA that way. So, but it's always good to be in touch with us, whether, you know, when you're planning to take additional courses or if you wanted to update your application in any way, because once we've reviewed it, then we have all the information we need. And then, you know, later on, if you do update that with something else, it's great to bring our attention to it so that we can add that to your, to our conglomeration of information about you. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Awesome.
Joanne, I'd like to make a point going back to that question about the introductory courses versus another course.
Mm-hmm.
Please keep in mind that usually an introductory course does not offer as in-depth study of the subject as a regular course would be. So if you are accepted into a PA program, you don't want to shorten yourself with less knowledge by taking that introductory course. So I would suggest that you talk to your advisor, tell them what your career path is planning to be, and let them advise you as to whether that introductory course would have enough coverage for that subject matter to get you through the PA curriculum.
Awesome point. Thank you, Susan. Yeah.
If you do take Organic 1 and Organic 2, we will take the higher grade.
Yes.
Just to make sure you have a lab with both, because those do require the lab.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, the next question, could you still be earning those while the application process occurs? Yes, you have until January the 15th to fulfill all the requirements. So if by the time you submit your application and then interview with us, you're still acquiring those hours, you technically have until January the 15th. However, we do need to see on your CASPA application that that clinical experience is ongoing and that you will acquire the required 500 hours by the deadline.
Someone else asked, do you accept cases where all prereqs are transferred in from a community college?
Okay, we just love that question. It's tough only because it's really a lot of it is looking at you individually. So if, for example, we do have a lot of students who decide to take PA career as maybe a second career. So they already have a job, they may have a family, mortgage, etc. So they need to work. And so for them, taking courses through a community college is really the only viable option. And so we take that into consideration. Now, community college courses are sometimes perceived as being a little easier than a four-year institution course. And we take that into consideration too. So students who have gone through the classes at an excellent institution such as NC State, you're going to have a better grasp and a better, have more thorough, let's say, than many of the community colleges. However, we do accept some of our students have come through with all community college. And that's really, if that's really the only way you can do it, again, we take that into consideration. So it's looked at individually. And of course, the four-year institution schools hold more weight. They're more, typically, they're more difficult. They offer a lot more in-depth, more, say, like, especially with labs and stuff, you have better technology, better chances of learning more information through those schools. Susan, anything you'd like to add to that question?
I'd just like to add that whether you're taking your prerequisites at a four-year university or a community college, our faculty also look at you taking a full course load. Yes. Not necessarily that you have to take a full course load every semester, because we look at your particular situation. As Joanne said, you may be working part-time or full-time. So if you're working full-time and you can only take 6 hours a semester, that's fine. But if you're not working, in order to prepare you for PA program, you need to be taking 10 to 12 hours or more per semester. So we look at the rigor of your semesters, how many credit hours you're taking, and how successful you are at taking that many credit hours. It looks like questions are coming in hot and furious.
Okay.
So
come back to them
hours.
We can also come back to them at the end of the presentation, because I know you have another half a slideshow, don't you?
We do.
A few more slides, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It might be better if we move on and come back to these questions, just because usually our meetings are over around 8 and I don't want to keep people.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we can go through the didactic and clinical fairly quickly.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So once you're accepted into the PA program, after you've chosen which campus you'd like to attend, Hendersonville or Wingate, our program, we begin a new cohort each August, and you will graduate in December, 2.5 years later. So it's a 27-month program with 7 semesters. Your didactic semesters are fall and spring, which are 16 weeks, and summer, which is 11 weeks. Your clinical phase is 4 semesters, the second fall, spring, summer, and another fall semester. In that final fall semester, you'll also wrap up with your rotations, have a capstone presentation, a final comprehensive or summative exam, and we'll also do PANCE prep with you. We have different course loads for each semester. The fall is usually around 19 hours, the spring 20 hours, and summer around 17 hours. Classes are Monday through Friday. We have 1 day designated per week for lab, and those are taught by faculty at each campus. Those are not via Zoom or online. You have exams 1 to 3 a week. They're always in the morning before classes begin. And in order to continue with our program, you must maintain a 3.0 GPA throughout your 3 didactic semesters. As Joanne has mentioned, we have the 2 campuses. They are connected through synchronous distance learning. The Wingate campus accepts 40 to 45 students. The Hendersonville campus accepts 15 to 20 students. The classes are taught in real time. The only difference between one campus or another is that your professor may not physically be in the same room as you. We have state-of-the-art technology on both campuses, and anytime you have a question or need the professor to repeat any information, all you have to do is raise your hand just like you do in class right now. We have monitors and screens in the room that share the information, PowerPoint slides, videos, whatever the professor needs to share. And you also have a screen that shows you what the campus, the classroom on the other campus looks like. You'll see your professor on the other campus. The majority of the courses are taught by Wingate campus professors, but we have 3 professors on the Hendersonville campus, and they also teach courses.
And labs are taught in person on both campuses. So those are not via synchronous distance learning. So, and this is actually a picture of our Hendersonville campus, one of the classrooms there. So you can see how the students are sitting there and can see the professor standing up at the podium, and then also the classroom on our campus through the monitor there.
In your clinical phase, you have 10 4-week rotations. We have 8 required. You can see them listed there. I won't take up your time by reading those out. So we have the 8 required rotations. And then Joanne, on the next slide, we have 2 elective rotations. Your rotations can also be out of the area. If you are from Illinois and you know a provider that is willing to host you as a PA student and provide you with a clinical rotation, we can set that up for you through your campus clinical coordinator. Your elective rotations can be in whatever area of interest you are following for possible practice after graduation.
Or you can even use those if you haven't had experience in one particular place, one specialty, and you wanted to learn it, you could try to use the electives in that way as well.
So once you have completed your 3 didactic phases and the 10 clinical requirements and successfully completed all of them, the PANTS prep is part of our program curriculum in that last semester after you finish the 10th rotation. You will sit for the PANTS, which is the Physician Assistant National Certification Exam. And then once you pass the PANTS, you will get your license as a certified PA, and you can apply for licensure to practice. We think we have awesome students at Wingate. As Joanne said, we only accept 60 students per cohort split between the 2 campuses. So you'll get a chance and opportunity to get to know each of your classmates very well. All of our faculty have an open door policy, and we are invested in our students, not just to show up to class and pass exams, but we are interested in you as a person, in qualifying you to be a provider, to be compassionate, to be empathetic, and to willing to heal bodies, heal minds, and give back to your community. I won't bother taking up your time by reading through this slide, but here are just a few things about what sets Wingate apart from other PA programs. Like we said, we're invested in your success. You interview with us, and if you receive an offer of admission, that means that we feel you have what it takes to successfully complete the program and become a qualified provider. So we are there totally to make you succeed. through this. We want you to learn professionalism, how to build relationships, how to communicate, knowing how to work with different individuals across healthcare fields and communicate with your patients at their level. We have very diverse training through our different faculty. We have different rotation settings in urban, rural, and underserved areas. And we're always trying to keep on trend with what's next in medicine, so that when you graduate and get into your practice 5 to 10 years and beyond, you aren't lacking in any skills. And this gives an example of the ultrasonography 3 years ago that we added to the program. We also like for our students to be engaged in the community, and while in the program, you'll have an opportunity to give back to your community. There's Habitat for Humanity, there's free clinics, and other different ways that our students give back to the community, learn how to engage with one another and communicate with their community. And these are just a few photos of the area around Hendersonville. For those of you who may not be familiar with Western North Carolina, Hendersonville is located about 25 miles from Asheville. It's very active for outdoor activities, and you're only a couple hours from a major metropolitan area, so it's a wonderful place to be. And the next slide shows some images of our Wingate campus, which of course is near Charlotte, which is a major metropolitan area as well. And here's our contact information. So if there's a question that we don't get to tonight, feel free to contact us through email or phone, and we'll be happy to answer your question.
We have a question in the room.
I was just asking about the applying with the withstanding prerequisites. Is the GRE are you just talking about prerequisite classes, or is the GRE another one of those prerequisites that you can apply without taking?
The question is, can you apply without having taken the GRE yet?
You can apply, but we would not consider your application as complete until we receive your GRE scores. Applicants must submit their score report to our program. Since that is one of our requirements, you would have to submit your scores before we consider you for an interview.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what kind of services they provide for students that are falling behind in classes.
What services do you provide to students who are falling behind in classes?
Fantastic question. We have, as we mentioned, very invested in your success. So our professors, let's just say, if you kind of want to sit in the back and not really participate and be forgotten about, don't come here. Because our professors get to know you, and anytime that you feel you're falling behind, or if any exam comes up that you find that you didn't understand the material as well as you had thought, you have the opportunity to speak with our professors. Like Susan said, there's the open door policy. We also have a remedial policy in place for students who do not attain a specific grade of shoot, is it 75 or 73 per exam?
Above 70. You must mean, yeah, above 70 on every exam.
Every exam. Then you're required to meet with your advisor, and you'll go over the topics that you missed on the exam with the professor who teaches it. I've seen professors here late into the evening talking with students who have missed something, or who are just really need that extra time with them to go over information that they didn't quite get the first time. So we have professors who are very invested, and they do require that kind of thing. So I like to call it the nipping it in the bud situation, where as soon as you feel like you might be starting to fall behind a little bit, that's when we kind of grab you and bring you along, and we start to work with you on a regular basis to make sure. And then if you feel like, oh yeah, okay, now I get it, and then you start to exhibit the knowledge in the future exams, then you're not, you don't need to continue that kind of interaction with the professor, but it's always there if you wanted to do it. We also have accommodation. This is maybe taking it a little further than your question, but if you do feel or that as time goes on that you have a disability or kind of learning a disability that might need to be addressed professionally, then we do have an ARC, Academic Resource Center, that will take your information and help you to find accommodations if those are needed for you for testing or for other learning situations that you find yourself in.
In the chat, someone asked about tuition.
Here's the chat. Okay. Yeah. How much is the tuition? Currently $13,250 per semester. It does increase each year, although we are looking into getting a full, program tuition in place so that so that it doesn't go up for you for the next year. That hasn't been put into place yet, but we're looking into that. So, but that's something you can take into your calculations. What that cost is, that is tuition. So any other kinds of costs on top of that, books and computers and living expenses, you have to consider that into your total as well.
Another question in the chat was, are you able to attend a class as a visitor?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you asked that question, because I forgot to mention that we do. One of our professors in particular, Professor Boschel, loves to have visitors to her class, pathophysiology. So if you like that course, or if you think you may, I'd love to have you come to this campus, or if you're interested in Hendersonville campus, you can make an appointment with Susan, and we can have you sit in on a class at either either campus. At the point of once you submit an application, however, that is when that's when we will pull back and not offer that any longer, just because you're already in the application and don't want to have some kind of favoritism to be seen or any kind of thing like that. So if you do want to sit in on a class, please let us know about that prior to your submitting an application.
Any more questions in the room? All right, I think that's it. Thank you so much for coming and speaking to us about your program.
Thank you for having us. We are thrilled. And I've left this screen up on this slide up on the screen, just so to give you plenty of opportunity to take down our information, just because we definitely want to be here as resources for you to help you in making this decision, or help you in what next steps you have to take in filling out an application, or wherever you are in your educational journey and your thought process as far as the career is concerned, to get in contact with either Susan or me. We're happy to work with you on your application process, and or chat with you, or put you in touch with one of our professors who can help you determine, if you're still in the initial stages, to determine whether that career is your pathway, if that's what you want to do or not. So we want to try and help you and be here as a resource for you.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate it. Would you actually be able to email me this presentation, and then I can send it out to everyone, especially with your contact information and everything?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome, Caitlin. And good to see you, Caroline.
You too.
Well, I hope you guys all have a great night. Our next meeting will be 2 weeks from now, and it is a nursing meeting. So we'll see you then. Have a great night.
If you have any questions, we're also up here.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.